I grew up the son of a journalist. My father was a journalist, and we were sort of surrounded by books. And the one thing he told me when I was a teenager is don't become a journalist. So, of course, what you do is when your father tells you don't do something, you do something. So I became a journalist then. I started work at around about the age of 17. At the age of 21, I decided that I wanted to do something a little bit different. So I went to the United States and hopped on a bicycle and went about 18,000 kilometers over the course of about a year and a half. So I stepped out by rivers, parks, in a jail cell once or twice. No, only once. But most of the time I just, you know, I met families or people along the road who told me stories. And I sort of accumulated all these stories and figured when I finished that, I wanted to tell the stories in fiction. I like fiction because it liberates me. And I can talk about what I want to talk about, but have an expansiveness. And I'm not constricted by what are known as the facts, you know. Facts are very malleable things. So fiction gives me a freedom and hopefully an ability to talk about what really matters. They were very tough kids, you know. They'd been involved in stabbings, in shootings. You know, they came from broken families, and I had a chance to live with them in a wilderness area. So it wasn't really about literature. It was more about just the act and art of living and having a quiet place for them to heal. I suppose I learned more from them than they learned from me, and I suppose that's the art of good teaching, is that you learn more than you give. I'm sort of attracted to the edge. I have a very normal life myself. You know, I live in New York, I have 3 children. I feel blessed to have the life that I have. But what interests me is the life of others who don't quite have the same possibilities. I think if you write about what you know, you put your ideas in a little box, and the little box has corners, and it's all sealed off, and it remains a box. But if you write about what you don't know, or if you write about what you want to know, the sort of box opens up and you can go anywhere that you want to do. When writing Let the Great World Spin, I was trying to resolve how I personally felt about what had happened at 9/11. Not to tell anybody about what it means or anything like that. That's for others. Other people who are better than me, smarter than me, more interested than me, they can do that. But if I create a landscape in which somebody can feel something, then I will have achieved something. And then to talk about recovery. There's 2 types of hope. There's a very sentimental, romantic hope that just says, oh, you know, everything is full of grace and light. And there's another type of hope that goes through the despair, goes through the darkness, and comes out on the far side and says, okay, the world is shitty, grimy, messy, dirty, you know, whatever it happens to be, and difficult. And yet, there has to be something more on the far side. So that's the sort of hope that interests me. The book allows you to feel, I hope, without telling you what to feel. John Berger, he says, never again will a single story be told as if it were the only one, which I think is really profound and beautiful, because it's not as if there's only just one story. These stories keep evolving and keep needing. We have to tell our stories over and over and over again, right? And so, yeah, there is a certain amount of weight that comes with Joyce, like he's there on the shoulders, like, you know, and Beckett. But you can't afford to be weighed down by them. They can't drown you. They should sort of liberate you in certain ways and teach you. Joyce used to say that the only rules about writing are the rules that are there to be broken. If there were a series of rules that we could follow, then everybody would do it. And most of the time you don't know what it is that you're doing. No matter, try again, fail better. And eventually you do realize that every piece of work is a failure. Like every book that I've written is a failure. It falls short of what I wanted it to be. It falls short of my expectations and it's not good enough. But that's what keeps you going on, because you want to write something that eventually will be good enough.